Going forward, we got Coach Kittley. Coach Kittley, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Wes Kittley. I'm the head track and field coach here at Texas Tech. I'm in my 40th year, 25 here at Texas Tech and 15 at Abilene Christian. And I'm still just loving it and I can't wait to get to work every day.
Yeah, man. You love it. You love it. You will show up every day. We had somebody on a couple of weeks ago, and he just talked about what it's like to be a servant coach, meaning going that extra mile for their athletes. And uh, I can attest to you being that person for me when I was in college, and I'm super thankful for it. But I would like to get your perspective on what it means to be a servant coach and what you think it means to go that extra mile for your athlete.
Yeah, I think I kind of got a head start on a lot of people because when I was about 6 years old, my granddad took me up to the track, and these guys were popping their trunk on their cars and pulling out these spikes. And I thought, man, that's just like a magical thing. They're putting these spikes on to run, and but it started. My granddad bought the high school couldn't afford any spikes. My granddad had bought. He's a sheriff. He bought them their spikes, and it kind of started me off like he knew they needed them and he wanted to help the team out. And I'm just so thankful of how I got raised by him, my mom and dad, and all my grandparents. I've just always loved what track and field and it means and expresses. It's all up to you. It's the main idea is to just give it your best all the time. But as a coach, I've always felt like, yeah, it's if I'm going to treat people right, and we're always going to work hard, but treating people right and doing it the right way. We're not going to take drugs. We're not going to cheat. We're going to work our tail off and treat people with respect. I always tell people I'm not a yeller, screamer, cusser. I'm just trying to be the same every day so that my kids don't see me up and down all the time, high and low. And so I think there becomes a trust there when they know they can depend on you for being the same every day.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Um, okay, so I guess the first question we could ask, just starting out, um, for future coaches, um, we have you, and I would say, would you say that you weren't as talented as most athletes, like in the sport of being a Power Five head coach?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, especially as an athlete, I was a
Yeah,
walk on.
I guess
And then,
that's what I was saying as an athlete.
yeah, as an athlete and as a walk on, I was 3-time All American though, but I walked on, then I just worked my way up to run 148 and a half in the 70s, which
Yeah,
was pretty good at that time. But I never did win. I was an All American, but I never did win.
yeah,
And I think uh, I almost feel like me not being quite as good kind of drove me a little bit, and I had the hunger to try to always accomplish more. I didn't. I was kind of a frustrated athlete, maybe a little bit,
yeah,
and you guys have been there in the ups and downs too, so you understand what I'm talking about.
yeah. What was that journey like for you, just starting out coaching, like move transitioning from being an athlete to like, okay, I want to take this next role to um being a college coach, and you're a head coach now. Well, you went to Abilene, was a head coach, and then to Texas Tech. What was that journey like for coaches that are trying to get into the game right now or in the future after their career is over, that weren't as good and don't have quite the resume that um Olympian will have, or All American, or X, Y, and Z? What kind of advice can you give to a lower end coach, well, a lower end athlete that wants to be a great coach in the future?
Yeah, no, I'm real excited for you guys and for the younger coaches nowadays. I mean, I graduated from college and I didn't want to quit running. I didn't want to quit, but I had to make some money. But I decided to get my master's and hang around, so I became just a volunteer. And that day and time, that was just really big because very few people got on, and so I volunteered for a year. And then the athletic director walked down one day and asked me, "Do I want to be the head women's coach?"
Oh
And
wow.
how it started for me, but it was volunteering and hanging around after college. Well, you guys have kind of done the same thing, but just in the last couple of years, we're now allowed, especially the Power Five schools, and there's 64, 65 of us that are starting now to offer, 50, 60, $70,000 jobs for incoming people above and beyond. We used to could only have 5 coaches for the whole men and women, or 3 coaches on each gender. And there's only maybe Arkansas men and women are the only Division I team that has a men's program and a women's program that are separate.
Yeah.
So now, there is no limit on coaches now. And there used to be 6 was it, me plus 5 others. Now there is no limit. And just like I know, we hired Coach Slagle this year. They allowed to hire him for the first time. He was a volunteer. Kansas has hired 2 coaches. I know Nebraska has hired 2 coaches. There's going to start being that opportunity with the Power Five people for a lot of you guys. And I think you've got a head start, especially being great runners and going through the college life and then continuing to run as a pro. I think there's going to be a lot of interest for kids like you guys to get it more than with me, because in the old day it was nothing but volunteer. And then now I know some schools that hired 4. Baylor hired 4 people. Kansas hired 2 or 3. K-State hired 2. We hired 1. But you're going to see all of us be able to hire more. And you take 65 schools, and if just they hire 2, that's 130 more jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, do you got any questions right before I ask the next thing?
I mean, going into just coaching, I want to know if he had any obstacles he had to get over. I mean, he's been coaching for 40 years. Like, what has been the challenges that you think the most that for like us incoming coaches should we look out for? And, so we could already go over the speed bump. We can already know what's coming and avoid.
Yeah, my worst thing, which was a blessing, but I didn't know it at the time, but I started at $10,000. I was broke forever until I was about 40 years old. I never made no money. I made $10,000 first starting off. And then when I was 40 years old, I got the Texas Tech job and I was making $38,000. And then they hired me for 80, and I thought I'd died and gone to heaven, but nowadays, like I know Baylor hired for 50 or 60,000 for opening coaches. Kansas State, the people that I mentioned, I think the obstacle was more just trying to live, and even y'all understand that, because y'all are even doing jobs and all to continue to run, and Under Armour's been great to you guys, but you still have to go do other things to make ends meet. And I think that's better now than it was. But then, you guys have an advantage that have run. I said it earlier. You take a kid that runs for me or any other school, but they weren't as good as y'all. Don't think it matters. I mean, being an All-American somewhere, they feel like you've been in tougher situations. You've gone through the ups and downs, but you've run at such a higher level. They think you know more about it than a kid that hadn't done that. So the obstacles are always there, but I think you've got a network, and you guys have done that well and will continue to. And a guy like myself can help you. And I just think the opportunities are so much more and better, and the obstacles will be there, but nothing we can't overcome.
Yeah. So not even speaking on our end, because I do think me and Vince have a solid resume for a kid that doesn't have that type of resume, and that hasn't excelled in the sport like that, but they have the knowledge. They have the knowledge to be a good coach. I don't think you have to be a great athlete to be a great coach. Like, for those guys that weren't really good, say they were a walk-on and their potential was just trying to make the conference team. Like,
yeah,
what if I could you could tell that kid, like, okay, this is the route that you need to start to trying to go. You're probably not going to be able to get right in the game right off the back and get a job. You're going to probably have to go down this volunteer. Like, what kind of advice could you give that kid?
Yeah, great question. And like I told you, the Power Fives all now have 6, we're full limits of 6 coaches, but most Division IIs, a lot of mid-majors in Division I don't have the full allotment. So you can be a volunteer. You can be a grad assistant. Man, go and beg a guy like myself to volunteer. You got, is there a you wanting to get your master's? Is there something on the campus that allows you to be a TA where you get $1,000 a month to live on while you're trying to coach. But I just volunteered and did everything the head coach didn't want to do. Got up early in the mornings, ran the cross country, helped him put on meets, helped him recruit. Didn't worry about no money. I just was trying to impress somebody that I'm a worker and I'm willing to be loyal and I'm willing to be with you. And so if you're like that, which is really what I was a walk-on and I wasn't as good as y'all. So, but I hung around and I was a good human being and I made those people recognize me that I was there for anything they needed me to do. So that would be my encouragement is don't be scared to reach out to a Wes Kittley, but sure don't be scared to reach out to the mid-major coach. Or, hey, coach, I'll come volunteer for you. I'll get a job at the grocery store. I want to be there. Impress upon them that you love coaching and you're not going to let any obstacle get in your way.
Yeah. I mean, moving from that, I heard you bring up recruitment. What is your biggest thing with coaching? How do you recruit? Like, do you look for a specific time? Do you look where they're from? When you recruited, I mean, you recruited us, you took a chance on us, but when you go through that recruiting process, what do you look for in an athlete to see if you want them on your team or not?
Yeah, I mean, you guys were studs, and I went after the best. But you know, you also had really good families, and that meant everything to me because I knew I had support from from your mom or dad, from either side of you guys. If I had trouble with you, I knew I was a phone call away. But I never worried about it once I got a relationship with you and I knew who you were. And but yeah, where I've gotten trying to win a national championship now every year and trying to win a Big 12. I mean, I'm recruiting the world, and recruiting anybody in Texas, but anywhere. Both of you guys weren't state of Texas, but y'all were two of the best 800-meter runners in the country. So I just think you've got to prove to a coach if you're going to try to help them recruit, which there's nothing I love better than a young, energetic guy that's bringing me a list all the time. Coach, what do you think about here? What do you think about here? It's getting on the website and on the portal and finding out who's transferring, looking at each state and seeing who are the top leaders in each state. And you're bugging them. You're calling their coach and you're trying to find out more information about them. What's their grades? You always find out that first because it don't matter about how good they are if they can't pass.
Yeah. So when you see that initial number, like, okay, this kid, 150.5 kid, he runs 47 flat, let's just say like 355, 1500 or something like that. You see these numbers, and then you got a kid that ran 148, 148 out of high school. He's a 46.8 guy, 349. You meet both of these kids, and one kid's personality or just like the feel of them isn't right. Like, how do you go about recruiting those two kids?
Yeah, man, great questions again. And I brought in several this year, and there were two of them that were like the 148 and 46, and he was better on paper. There's not any doubt he's better. But I mean, he started talking about, smoking weed or partying and where's the mall, and I knew right quick he's not going to fit in well with me. Now he was the full ride guy, but the other guy you mentioned, the 150 flat guy or whatever, okay, he's a 10%er, but I'm also, going to try to help him out financially with other financial aid, things like that, and develop that kid. But, the culture is so important. You can't get anybody in here that's going to try to really screw up your culture. You can take one of the kids that aren't perfect, but they've got to buy into what these other guys like you two have to pull him under your wing and know, hey, we want him, coach, but we got you back on him, but we're going to try to help him mature as a young man. Yeah.
So, how do you go about trying to find out those personalities? Like when you're recruiting, like what questions are you asking to try to nitpick and find out, okay, this the guy I want. I know that's the kid that I want. Like,
yeah, I called your counselor. I called Vince's counselor at your school. I talked to your parents. I just get a good feel whether you're a good kid or not. And I'm not wrong many times. And then, listening to you talk to me, like what your goals are, what you want to do, instead of just being a flighty kid. It's like, where's the next party? Y'all didn't come on the visits asking that. Y'all are seriously wanting to run fast. Y'all are trying to make a decision on where to go. And those things mean everything. And I keep coming back to those parents. If you got a parent that's really backing you, then it's huge because it's just an extra layer that's going to help me help develop you. I talked to your daddy 100 times, never much about a problem, just talking about how you doing. And same with Vince's mom. And it's just unbelievably fun and unique to have that relationship with the family and the kid, because you just really get a feel to how to help them mature and to grow.
Yeah. So taking it back to like the Abilene Christian days. I mean, you weren't always, trying to recruit the world, So how was recruiting when you were at like Abilene Christian for those 15 years? What kind of kids were you looking in for? Was it more of a 155, 2 minutes? How was that? Because I always wasn't beat a 150 coming out of high school. I'm assuming Abilene.
I would mostly get in my Ford Tempo and drive to everywhere. And mostly I recruited Texas, when I was there. But I get in a home. When I get in a home, normally, like I got you on the visit, but if I can't get a kid on the visit that's that close, I'm going to try to get in the home. And I'm going to get a good feel when I get in that home and I spend 3 or 4 hours with them. I'm going to get a good feel for that kid. I mean, I'm going to know their mannerisms. I'm going to see how they're treating their mom, their dad, things like that. And then, lots of times I just did it on the phone. I'm calling a kid. I got a time. I didn't have a budget. When you don't have a budget, you're talking to the coach, you're talking to the counselor, and you're talking to anybody in the community that knows that kid, and you're making a judgment call sometimes. But that was when I didn't have any money or a budget, and you have to take a couple of chances sometimes. But I didn't get many red flags, or I would just move on.
Yeah. What was that budget like at Abilene for traveling to see kids?
I was afraid to ask me that. No, I got in my car and went everywhere. I drove everywhere, and then would drive home, and most time not even spend a night in a hotel. But I probably had $30,000 for the whole men and women for the whole year, and whereas at the Texas Tech, you got $200,000, and so most of the Power Fives are going to have $250,000 of budget to be able to recruit, and you can fly in people. We now can bring in one parent, so that really helps.
Yeah.
And bring the parent
that's what's up. That's a game changer right there.
Yeah. And those people can't have the money to do that. And so it really hurts them. They're having to make tougher decisions, whereas we get a real good feel for somebody in 48 hours. And like I put you as my host for that kid, and then I'm talking to you during the visit. What do you think about him? Is he and your coach, that kid don't do nothing but go party. That's all he's talking about. Or, man, coach, this kid's a nice kid. So I lean on my leaders on the 48-hour visits to kind of help me with those people.
Yeah. You got a question, V?
Yeah. So I just really wanted to know, so we're talking about the coaching process and getting those kids. Do you have any advice for the high schoolers trying to get into a Abilene Christian or a Texas Tech University, either mid-major or big, like for all around advice for them and what they should do to get into to run it at a school?
Yeah. And I keep saying this, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like I get 10 or 15 a day, 158 kid, a 157 kid. I can't take them. But, they keep bugging me and keep bugging me about the third time. And then I'll answer them and say, hey, Midwestern State University in Division II is looking for some people. I think, you're not quite good enough for me, but I would think you would have an opportunity to get a scholarship there at McMurray, at Tarleton State University or whatever. And I think the more that they bug you and the more you can tell how serious they are, an email, even a phone call if they will. But I think they just need to bug. If there's a place they like, they need to bug that and then have their coach call. And that coach calling for them gives them a little more respect. That, like me, I'm going to answer it. If I knew a coach, Jody Brown called me today, actually, about a 407 miler. He's a grapevine coach in Texas. He called me today. Well, I answered the phone. Jody Brown's a good coach, and Jody Brown's a Red Raider. So, and he brought up a kid. So squeaky wheel gets the grease. I mean, it's really be respectful, but be like me. I mean, I wanted this job at Texas Tech. I called the AD 10 times. I made sure he knew, where can I meet you? When can I drive up to see you? I mean, I'm pushing it.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to do none of that, Wes. You're one of my top 2 coaches. I mean, he backed off and told me I was one of his top 2. So then I didn't have to. He'd already told me, I'm going to give you the interview. Don't worry.
You was like they were recruiting too. I
I
tell
was,
I tell people all the time. I was like, Texas Tech was not in the picture for me. And Coach Kittley just kept blowing up my phone, kept blowing up my phone.
yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me see what he talking about. And sure enough, I came on a visit, and my whole perception of everything changed around
Yeah.
on my visit at Lubbock. But there would have never been a visit if you weren't so persistent with those phone calls and those messages. So you definitely, I can like contest to what you just said of how you just were like bugging the AD. I can believe it because you did that to me, and I was just a kid, and it just showed like to me that showed me the effort that you was putting in. That was one of the biggest reasons that I was like, okay, he's going that extra mile to show me that he wants me, and for me that stuck out. You know what I mean? Especially coming from St. Louis and not trusting a lot of people. Like
Yeah.
it just showed me that I had somebody that'll go to war for me. So um, I love that for sure. That's one of the greatest things that I admire about you. That you're just a super determined person, and you're a go getter, and you don't let anything stop you from going to where you want to go. And also beyond that, you also just are good with curveballs. Like if something doesn't go your way, it's like, okay, what's the next thing? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, I, me and Vince both have seen different situations at Tech where it was like, okay, this did not go how we was expecting. And it was like next thing, next thing, next thing.
Yeah.
How did you develop that mindset?
Well, probably CJ, when I was young, coach, when things would go bad like that, well, I probably learned that I tucked my tail a little bit too much. And instead, and the hardest thing for me here at Texas Tech took me 20 years to win a national championship.
Yeah,
As you know, each step you guys were part of, and every class kept getting better, and we kept getting closer. And we should have won the national championship 5 years before. We
yeah,
had teams good enough to win it, but we didn't know how to win. We just didn't know, or we have a little bad luck of injuries or whatever the case might be. But I think that was probably the most important thing was I I had to learn that I can't react to everything. You know, I would have never won if I hadn't failed. So I failed, I got back up, and I failed and I got back up. And I just kept trying to be doing things right, treating people right, recruiting the best kids, and let the good Lord take care of the rest. That's just been my philosophy. And I got good people like you guys, and y'all became leaders, and y'all didn't want to lose, and that's how we got there.
Yeah, and with so many achievements, I mean, winning a national title, I'm pretty sure that led to you getting into a Hall of Fame. I know, congratulations to you for getting into Hall of Fame recently. And what do you think led for you to get into the Hall of Fame, or what do you think other achievements you did to get you into that Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think I had a really good run at Abilene Christian in Division II and won 30 national championships there. I won 7 national championships in a row twice. And I think that was a big feat for me and have the opportunity to do that. And then, I tell people this all the time. I never made any money at Abilene. I never got paid much. I started at nothing. But those wins at Abilene and those championships got me the job at Texas Tech. So I got paid at Texas Tech for my work I did at Abilene Christian. So
Yeah.
it's also a thing, a young person, a young coach, don't just look for who's going to pay you the most, because it might not be a good job. You might want to take a little bit less money, but wow, that's a good coach to get tutored under, from tutelage to be a part of a program. There's just good people there that I feel like would blessed me later in life instead of just taking the $5,000 more dollars I could get at this school.
yeah,
And I think that's really important. I never chased the money. I mean, I thought I died and gone to heaven at $80,000, and never that what Power 5 coaches would make now. So money never was the issue. I wanted to bring proud program to this university and to bring good kids, and for y'all to feel like y'all were special, and y'all kept building a part of that and being a part of the program. Like I say, every one of y'all, that national championship was all of y'all. You know, every kid I've coached here, because we had to have a stepping stone, just keep building.
Yeah.
12 conference championships, man. They're important.
We were part of the first indoor one.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
We can ask like one or two more questions, but I guess my last question would be like, how do you manage the different personalities? Like, even when we were in school, like me and Vince are two totally different kids. Like Vince is a little bit more laid back, laughy, giggly. I'm a lot more serious, just straightforward type of kid. Like how do you manage those different personalities? And not only that, like how do you manage the good personalities with the negative personalities? How do you deal with those different things?
I learned a long time ago, just like you two, y'all are different, but I want you to always be you. I mean, I always want you to not try to, y'all probably knew I didn't like this or that, but I tried to let you guys be yourselves most of the time. And when it was time to be serious, y'all reel it in, or when it's time to be funny, y'all could be that too. But number one, I really want your personality to be who you are, because God made you that way, and I don't need to change that. Be who you are. That's your strength. The other thing of just how to deal with all of it when problems happen is everything is better one-on-one. When I was a very young coach, and even in y'all's day, there'd be times when I'm upset and I get in that team meeting on Wednesday and I'm mad at 1-2 people, and I'm telling the whole group. And the great management though is one-on-one. When you let things fester, when you see something you don't like, go deal with it right then. Maybe it's during practice, you got to wait till practice is over, but deal with those personalities, and just don't let no one person in the apple cart ruin the whole thing. You can't let one overrun everybody. You can have one kid that you're trying to help mature, and maybe a couple of them out of 100 on the team, but man, if you get 5 or 6 bad kids that don't want to do what's right, they can ruin the whole thing. And so I just tried my best to do more one-on-one things. I think that's your greatest management skill, is to just get that person in the office if you can, out of in front of everybody. Try to talk to them real. Let them know you care, and let them know it's more about them than just running fast for you. And know that I love my kids, man. I love you guys. It's like y'all went to war for me, and I'm gonna honor you till I die. It's I wouldn't be where I am today. And so I think the kids got to know that you care for them.
Yeah.
My last question would be, if you could change anything, no matter if it's your running career, your early coaching career, your coaching career now, what would it be?
Well, I'd be faster. Yeah. That was easy. I'm 148 hamstringer. I would have an injury, and I never felt like I reached my goal. But I wouldn't change anything of how my career has been. I became a volunteer coach. I had to prove myself, and then I got a chance, and then I proved myself. And nobody gave me anything, but I just worked my way up, and I did it. I did it pretty fast, but I never made any money or never made any kind of big name until I was in my 40s. And I think y'all's generation, it's so hard because y'all got cell phones. I never had cell phone. We never had all that quick microwave. Everything happens in a short time. And I hate it for the younger group, because they're so used to everything getting everything in an instant. Things happen in an instant. And as y'all know, you don't become no great 800-meter runner or whatever. It takes time.
Yeah.
And that's my greatest strength, though, man. I can just persevere. The good Lord gave me that. That's my greatest gift, is I don't quit. I ain't ever quitting, and I'm staying with you, and I'm going to figure out how to help you better. My coaching might be a little bit off for this, so I got to figure out how to work for you. And I don't cookie cutter anything. I'll change it if I feel like you need it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, with that being said, we thank you, Coach Kittley. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your Hall of Fame time, the new Hall of Fame coach. We so proud of you, man. Me and Vince was excited to hear you get inducted. You was well deserved, well past the time. But you in now, and shout out to you on that. You deserved it.
Well, it's a blessing. Very honored by it, and had a great weekend. It was a wonderful time. I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for you guys. And so y'all know I love you, and I'm here for you anytime.